Howdy. Today I'm going to take a square piece of stock and turn it into a wonderful childhood toy. So stick around. Alright, so I'm not actually going to turn that piece of stock into a baseball bat, but I am going to create a childhood toy known as a Soma cube. Stick around with me today and I'll show you how I build it. So the first thing to do is take your square piece of stock and break it down into 27 unique cubelets. How you do that is you set your table saw blade to just higher than the thickness of your material, and you also set a stop block where the gap between the end of the stop block and the table saw blade is equal to the thickness of your material. To do that, I just simply align the stock parallel with the blade and set the stop block on the opposite side. I use an extension on my miter gauge fence to give me greater control through the cut. I square up one end, butt that clean end against the stop block, and make my cut for my first test. As a sanity check on my cut, I use my trusty digital calipers to see where I am. And it looks like I am 1/128th above 1.5 inches, and that's good enough for me. Let's cut 26 more. So now we use our router table with a 1/4 inch roundover bit with a guide bearing to make the rounded edges on the pieces. Now it's important to remember that as you route, that you will route against the grain first, such that if you have any tear out that exists along this edge, it will get cleaned up when you route it across with the grain. It's also important to note that, at least for me on my table, I have this insert here that flexes just a little bit. And as I route, the majority of the weight of the cubelet is going to be actually on that ring, and there's a chance that the cube could tip a little bit, and I'm exaggerating to prove the point. But as long as I keep the majority of the pressure on the solid aluminum deck, I should be fine. Let's begin routing. To make the routing operations a little safer, I'm going to use a straight edge, and I'm going to push that straight edge against the guide bearing on my router bit and bring my fence forward until I have 3 unique points of contact: this part of the fence, the bearing, and this part of the fence. When they are all touching the straight edge, I know that the bearing is in line with the fence. And at that point, I can lock the fence down and begin my routing. As I'm routing that little piece, you can see that my fingers are a bit too close to that bit. I should really figure out a better way, a more safer way to do that. I am safe, however, and my fingers are all intact. And after a few minutes of routing, we now have rounded corners on all 27 unique blocks. We now get to glue them in the shapes that you see before you. We have 4 2-dimensional pieces and 3 3-dimensional pieces. And I'll show you how I glue them up. In order to facilitate the glue up, I've built a jig. It's nothing more than a piece of plywood with some plywood runners that help align the pieces in the specific shapes. I simply place the pieces in the jig, and where appropriate I apply a little bit of glue. Just a dab will be fine. And just squeeze them together. And apply clamping pressure. Now if some glue squeezes out, take a utility knife and carve out the squeeze out. And through the miracle of YouTube, we have completed our cube. There are several hundred permutations to build out the cube in a 3x3x3 form. The way I'm showing you now and the way I showed you at the beginning of this film were how I learned growing up. Hi, my name is Colin Lineroad. Thank you for tuning in to the Line Road Abode. As you can see, the Soma cube is pretty cool. The thing I like about it is it's completely scalable. You can make it any size you want. Most of the cubes that I've built thus far have had round over edges or chamfers. I wonder if a cove would work. We'll see, maybe next time. Additionally, this is the first time I've ever posted anything to YouTube. I'm a hobbyist woodworker, and I enjoy watching other woodworkers on YouTube who post their videos. I hope to get into that space sometime soon. Hopefully in the future too, my videos won't look like Conan's video blog. Check you later. Thanks, and gig 'em.